Hey, let's take a look at Intel. It's been nearly a month since we last checked in. Going back to August 5th, it was trading at $35. It's still at $35. Uh, but of course, some things have happened since then. So let's just kind of see what's going on. I think it's best to start with Q3 outlook. What they told us they're planning on doing is to get about 13 to 14 billion dollars. Analysts, they have their estimates currently pegged at about 13.46. Not much has changed there, but just showing that now. Uh, so no big changes here. As far as some news, Intel is adding Synopsys IP to advanced contract manufacturing. The chip design tools maker Synopsys has signed a deal to bring its technical building blocks to the advanced contract manufacturing Intel. The deal includes intellectual property owned by Synopsys, off the shelf components for the chip designers aiming to speed the process. It will work with Intel's advanced manufacturing capabilities Intel 3 and Intel 18A. We're going to touch on Intel 18A in towards the end of the news portion before shifting into the technicals. The partnership between Intel and Synopsys is an important step for the Intel Foundry Services, its contract manufacturing business, to become a viable alternative to TSM. Uh, Intel Foundry Services was founded in 2021, or it was launched in 21, and it reported revenue of $232 million in the second quarter of this year. So that's, I believe Intel owns 100% of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they own 100% of that. And to see the revenue go up to 232, times that by four, it's close to $1 billion already. That's quite a landmark. And again, that's going to be potentially built out to compete with TSM, which is pretty much the largest vendor in that space by a large margin too. So we'll just see how that evolves. It looks like they're making deals to kind of speed up the progress to at least catch up to them on a business basis. Obviously not a revenue or a sales basis, but on a a actual components basis. Hopefully they can compete. They also scrapped their $5.4 billion tower deal. So the $5.4 billion deal to buy an Israeli contract chipmaker, Tower Semiconductor, after their merger agreement expired without regulatory approval from China. And so they decided to buy Tower last year. They will pay a $353 million termination fee. Pat Gelsinger had said he was trying to get the tower deal approved by Chinese regulators and had visited the country as recently as last month. I remember mentioning that. Uh, at the time, we thought it was more of like an AI type thing, but yeah, this actually makes sense that they were trying to just understand what was going on there. Gelsinger also said that Intel was investing in its foundry business, which makes chips for other companies, irrespective of the tower deal. So, uh, again, this isn't really going to hold them up. It looks like it was more so to just help them speed up the process, but either way, they're just going to continue on. And so down here on the right side, we have Intel had agreed to spend $25 billion on a new factory in Israel, and that's where this Tower Semiconductors is located. Once that came through, a lot of people already gave up on the Tower deal. Honestly, I thought it went through without a hitch, so this was kind of caught me off guard, but it seems like it's actually going to be better for Intel long term, as Tower didn't. I just saw that they didn't have good gross margins. It wasn't really going to help them financially. But again, technically, I think it was going to give them a step forward, but financially, it was going to be not very good in terms of investors. But Intel Foundry Business, they reported that 232 million. We mentioned that in the last article. That's up from 57 million. So quite a jump there. And that should continue to snowball. The rise in foundry sales comes from advanced packaging, we're going to touch on this a little bit more in depth soon. A process in which Intel can combine pieces of chips made by another company to create a more powerful chip. It has also committed to trimming $3 billion in costs this year. This was mentioned in their uh, guidance going into Q3, and I think it was even for the full year. But yeah, they're aiming to cut costs, which should help gross margins and just help them function better as a whole unit. We also have Intel is going to invest $1.2 billion in Costa Rica over the next 2 years. This is apparently, at least the way it reads, is this is coming after the U.S. State Department said in July that it would partner with Costa Rica's government to support the Costa Rican semiconductor sector through the 2022 CHIPS and Science Act. It seems like they just had a deal with the U.S. government, and this is kind of the exploits that they're going through to keep that partnership alive in this area. Intel's doubling down on advanced chip packaging. So we mentioned that we were going to bring up this topic earlier. The final node, this called Intel 18A, should be ready by the end of 2024. Intel expects this sub 2 nanometer process to leapfrog TSM. So TSM, I believe, if it's not out already, the 3 nanometer chip was their pride and joy, the best they have. Intel's hoping to come out with this 2 nanometer, looks like less than 2 nanometer, by the end of next year. So unless TSM comes up with a new chip, this is meant to be the smallest and assumed to be the most efficient chip. So we'll see how that plays out as long as they can hit their deadlines and nothing comes from TSM. Intel could be the leading chip provider, but we'll see. Intel is also investing in expanding its own advanced packaging capacity. Beyond its own products, Intel will need to offer advanced packaging services to foundry customers. By 2025, the company is reportedly planning to quadruple its advanced chip packaging capacity. The plan includes building multiple new facilities in Malaysia, and notably, Amazon, Cisco, and the US government has already committed to using Intel's advanced packaging technology. The foundry services, they're saying that's like a $200 billion industry potentially by 2028. So yeah, we're looking for that 18A chip. They're getting into this advanced packaging services, which hopefully helps their foundry services, which is a huge market there, $200 billion. We'll just see how this all plays out. Intel has a lot of opportunity in front of them. We just need them to actually make it happen. So, but that covers the news. I mentioned this earlier also, that again, nothing's really changed. The only minor change was right here. I guess the annual revenue has ticked up a little bit, but by 0.03. So that was the only change I noticed. They seem to be on track for their current year as long as their earnings per share for this quarter and next quarter come true. Yeah, then they're online for this, so no concerns there. And then down here at the bottom, this just shows the last time we looked at them. They were trading at 35. I thought it was a fair price at the time. Ultimately, I wanted about 31, 33, so 35 was good enough. I did buy this one, but again, I didn't think it was a great buy, just thought it was fair, and I knew at the time I wasn't going to circle back to this probably for about a month. That's about when we're looking at it now, and yeah, so it's stayed the same. Let's just take a look at the technical charts just to see if anything's major happened. So yeah, last time we looked was here, so it's right around 35, and yeah, just timing. We just missed this one. If we would have looked at this last week, we probably would have caught it at the ideal spot, because that would have been the very bottom of this uptrend and very close to a support line that we have here at 31. Because we missed it, we already picked this one up at 35, so I'm personally, I'm probably not going to pick it up, even though compared to where it was, it's probably a slightly better deal. So if potentially we didn't pick it up last time to see it at this price today, I'd probably be more inclined to pick it up. But again, because I picked it up already, I'm not looking to build this one out. Because again, there's not much growth at this time. But yes, it's in an uptrend, so I would add to this. Maybe if it was, again, if we would have caught this one at 33, yeah, I would have picked that up because below that uptrend. But overall, it's that uptrend's still intact, so no changes there. Um, let's see. Buy points, at least this week, I'm hoping to stay up with this one a little more frequently. But just looking at it now, knowing that there's a trading day tomorrow, 33 would have been the ideal. Also 31, if it were to break the uptrend, which currently it isn't, doesn't look like it's going to either. But if it did, 31, I would look to pick it up there. But right now, yeah, 33, that'd be my time to pick this up. That's the ideal spot. Otherwise, in terms of resistance, I'm thinking 40 is the most intriguing point. The very top of the uptrend would be 38, so that is a resistance point. But 40, that was a time of that was a support line in all honesty. Like Intel's had major dips over the past like five years roughly, but to actually break so far below 40, I'm just curious to see how it reacts because we've seen many times in the past, and here's like a quick example of it, where 40 kind of acted as resistance here for a number of months. And then once it broke above, that pretty much was support for like 4 or 5 years. And now bringing us back to today, I'm just curious, is it going to act as resistance for, doesn't seem like long, maybe a month, 2 months, but it might just kind of consolidate there for a little period of time, able to pick up shares. We'll see, just a theory. But yeah, that pretty much wraps this up. So just a quick recap. We have Intel here. Currently it's at 35. I still think that's fair, but it's not the dip like we saw last week. So I'm still looking for 33. That would be my ideal time to pick this up. Resistance at 40, so it's clearly close to the buy point. It's just, again, I'm looking for a little bit more of a pullback. Date we updated, and then again that uptrend since March, that's still intact. Looking to buy the dips. But yeah, that wraps this up. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.